welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today, everyone, I'm going to be sharing with you some insights and some information regarding the upcoming Virgo and Pisces axis transition with the lunar nodes, and just basically giving you what I feel to be a sense or my own consciousness's interaction with this symbol or these symbols that are going to be taking place right now, and how we can actually, in some way, shape, or form, use these symbols to awaken within ourselves more of our spiritual incarnation. Okay? So I hope that sounds interesting, and you're up for this interesting little series that I'm busy creating at this point. So if you haven't actually watched any of the videos, or this is the first time you're watching this, you'll have noticed that I've actually created a Venus in Virgo video, a Jupiter in Virgo video, and a Mars in Virgo video. Now, most of these symbols themselves will probably be out, or most of these symbols will probably, Venus and Mars will be out by the end of November. So if you're watching this past the end of November 2015, we would have already passed that, those signs, but they do give us, or the knowledge in there is still impactful in some way, because it does, or what I'm trying to create through that, should I say, is the awareness around bringing into focus, so the awareness around bringing into focus the Virgo Pisces story, okay? And from an evolutionary astrology perspective, and from the works of Jeffrey Wolf Green and such, there's a very, very deep connection towards the nature of our collective consciousness at this point in time, okay? And the distortions that inherently exist within the way that we act, the way that we behave, and the way that we naturally operate within each other and in relationships and such. So these are quite big questions that I'm going to try to tackle today, and to, in some way, shape, or form, get us to recognize some of these patterns, these psychological patterns or psychological awarenesses that are laying very dormant within us, and yet we activate ourselves, or we represent ourselves from these archetypes in ways that we didn't even know were present, okay? So what we're dealing with here, firstly, is the Virgo and the Pisces axis. Okay, and what this axis symbolizes is, from my perspective, I call it an evolutionary gateway. All the signs are evolutionary gateways, but I call these two signs, for me personally, Virgo and Pisces, evolutionary gateways. And the reason why is because the transition from Leo to Libra requires a flip of awareness from invert to extrovert, okay? From Aries, we incarnate, we discover, and when we get to Leo, we understand what that special purpose was about, okay? We kind of recognize, okay, on a very subjective level, that this is what I was born to do. However, because it's so subjective, we're not aware of other people or the external reality and such. The consciousness has not formed that. And so therefore, we need an archetype to kind of create necessary balance, right? So from Libra to Scorpio to Sagittarius to Capricorn to Aquarius, that would be the polarity points of the other signs, so Aries, etc. And they would represent other people's identity structures, Aquarius, other people's definitions of themselves and where they come from and so on. Ninth house would be the polarity point of third, which is other people's philosophies, other people's opinions and such, versus your own. But in order for us to establish that consciousness and to develop it and cultivate it, we need an evolutionary gateway that aligns our awareness around that process. So as you've heard me speak before, you've got Leo and everybody sits at the top over there, and then Virgo, it flips it the other way around and goes, okay, now you're at the bottom, and now you're open to the galactic universe. You recognize your spiritual journey. You've created necessary, through humiliation process of recognizing you don't know everything, that you start to form and balance yourself so that you can then enter the social world in a way that is fair and equal and balanced, okay? And that's what we learn in Libra. So Virgo creates that evolutionary adjustment process, okay? And then Pisces is where we return back to the ocean, okay? We individuate ourselves and then we go, wow, that was an amazing experience, and now it's time to return. It's time to dissolve. The ocean, should I say the wave, returns to the ocean, okay? And everything literally dissolves. It goes apart and unravels, and we find the ultimate meaning in the process, okay? Deep, deep reflection. So both of those archetypes actually reveal to us a symbol of surrender, okay, to something greater than ourselves. So this Virgo Pisces nodal axis transit that's going to take place for us is, for the next year and a half, is going to be very interesting, because many of us that are on the planet today will come through, or will come to recognize through this transition of what it means to have a deeper connection towards spirit, have a more raw and real connection towards the nature of creation, okay? And we will learn these or experience these circumstances and situations in very different ways. Some of us that maybe have done the inner journeying and the inner work over the last 2.5 years, particularly with Saturn moving through Scorpio, will probably see this experience as one where they're getting to fulfill their dreams. And so they're going to experience a lot of karma yoga, which is, this is my dream, and how do I cultivate it every single day? Neptune, my dream, my illusion, and Virgo, how do I cultivate that every day? What routines do I have that allow me to, allow this idea, this dream to come to reality, okay? So there's that. And then there's, of course, other souls that will evolve through crisis in that way. They'll have to surrender to circumstances that will then very inherently teach them about a deeper connection towards the spirits and towards surrender. And that as much as the little I, which is the ego, feels like it has control over circumstances and situations, it ultimately doesn't. Venus, or should I say the Virgo Pisces axis, also has, for many of us that have got a Virgo Pisces axis, so if you've got a Virgo Pisces axis in your birth chart, or you have, you've got the south node of the south and north node of your moon in the 12th house and in the 6th house, or if you've got, as I said, the south node of the moon and the north node of the moon in Virgo Pisces, and so on and so forth, you're going to, or Mars in Virgo, or Venus in Virgo, or Mars and Venus in Virgo, or Jupiter in Virgo, Saturn in Virgo especially, many of you will experience or have deep, like, cellular memory imprinting, okay, regarding lifetimes lived under very strict religious conditioning, okay, especially over the last 2,000 years. And the reason why this is the case is because, as I teach with all my students there, is that there is a strong association with religion and the Virgo Pisces axis, especially the type of cultural conditioning around Christianity, Judeo-Christian, you've got, many others. On a consensus level, in other words, the need to create a paradigm in order for people to feel secure within, on a consensus level, this is a form of control, okay, a control mechanism that guides people to form a relationship to God, right? Pisces, the source, and to be of service to God in some way, shape, or form, Virgo. Now, because Virgo Pisces axis does not actually just operate, just with those two signs, it actually has a strong interconnection with the mutable cross, which is, of course, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Okay, so I've got a little diagram that I would like to show you guys at this stage to illustrate these points that I'm trying to portray to you. Okay, so I'm going to jump into that right now. So what you're looking at here at the moment is the Virgo Pisces axis, or if you're looking at the natal chart, the natural zodiac. And what we're seeing here is the archetype of Pisces. You've got the archetype of Gemini, you've got the archetype of Virgo, and you've got the archetype of Sagittarius. Now, what I'm talking about specifically is the relationship between these two. Okay? Those two. Source, ultimate meaning, creation, God, etc. And Virgo, and that will be that service to that process, the service to God, right? So priests, nuns, etc. Where these two come in is that you have inherent belief system or philosophies, okay? And the communication of those philosophies and belief systems. So what you have here is the assimilation of these beliefs and philosophies, okay? These beliefs and philosophies through the communication, through written scripture, into the collective consciousness that is, perpetuating the idea of an external savior or God, right? Consciousness outside of yourself, and that you need to be of service to it in some way, shape, or form. Okay, step one. All right. So this inherent lie or belief system that tells you that God is an existential being and that we need to be of service to him through sin, okay? And that gets perpetuated through the communication, right? So what we have here is this inner dialogue to ourselves, Gemini, Virgo, that perpetuates this belief system or the illusion of separation between God and our personal natural laws, etc. So we have this thing within our collective consciousness, okay? And this will be the literal interpretation of the Bible, for instance. The Bible was intended to create a sort of guidance for humanity to not get lost in the material world, but to ascend through the material world, okay? And unfortunately, literal perspectives have been taken on it, and that's okay. That's part of our consciousness. I'm not having a dig at it. I'm just telling you what there is. So what we have here is, again, through this religious conditioning and perpetual externalization of God, we have within ourselves this deep sense of lack that exists within us because we are imperfect and God is perfect. Now, in a universe in which Source expanded itself in order to experience itself, creation is inherently imperfect. It is searching for perfection. So therefore, we as human beings and spirit in itself are returning back to ultimate oneness, right? There isn't anything that we need to judge ourselves against other than ourselves. But these external belief systems have created these internal judgments to make us feel imperfect about ourselves, creating this deep inner sense of lack. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Right? You can understand this type of psychology because almost 80% of you that have probably watched this video right now at some point have said that to yourself. And you actually believe it. You believe that you're incapable of doing something or believing in yourself to the point where you actually sabotage your own ability to experience the nature of your infiniteness. Okay? Now, that's the story. That's this core base that I'm talking about right now. And this is serious stuff because, you know, at this point in time where we are trying to become more conscious of our beingness and so on, we are in some way, shape or form, always in very subtle ways, sabotaging our ability to expand and experience ourselves as our universal godly nature. Because again, we feel the criticism, the inherent judgment that's coming from other people. And we have to learn in some way, shape or form to objectify the emotions and the reality and these thoughts about, or if I create this YouTube channel because I'm really, really inspired to be an astrologer and I really want to follow in the footsteps of, you know, whoever, but I don't want to do it. I'm too scared to be criticized. Right? Or I'm not inherently good enough, so I'm gonna kind of like create necessary distractions and avoid the situation. You know, these are the types of psychological distortions that take place within us that keeps us imprisoned within our own mental construction. So The next part of what I'm really trying to now illustrate to you guys as well is, and Jeffrey talks about this in his book, and I love the way that this gets expressed, because every single one of you, including myself, at some point in our incarnation, has been subjected to this trauma. And that is, he defines it as the Garden of Eden myth. The social imprinting and psychological distortions that are projected into our reality of what is right and wrong. Okay, these man-made laws. And so what happens here is that you have two archetypes. You have the masculine and you have the feminine. It's really important to understand that from an esoteric perspective, the nature of creation is consciousness, which is spirit, okay, the masculine form, okay, penetrating the feminine form, which is matter, spirit into matter, okay? And what happens here is that you have masculine and feminine interacting, where feminine is the womb, it is earth itself, it is the earth trines, it's the water trines, and spirit, which is expansive, it is exploration, it is finding the destiny. So you have the man, which operates through the heart. I'm seeking to follow my special destiny. And the female archetype, or the feminine archetype, the search for nurture and protection and for being grounded. Now, there's something that's incredibly important to recognize and understand. Every single one of us on this planet today inherently are both masculine and feminine. Simultaneously, there is no separation. But we have this deep psychological pathology that there is a separation, and that we have cultural conditioning that we have perpetuated in past lives and maybe in this lifetime of the separation. The man does this and the female does that. And we've actually created truths that we will hold on to that are imprinted in the subliminal subconscious, okay, the subconscious of humanity, in a subliminal way, through watching television programs where the man does that and the female does that, and the truths associated with that. This is so subtle and yet so apparent if you see it. It's like 4 or 5 layers of wood stacked on top of each other, and then subtly amongst one of the layers of wood that's stacked on top of it, we have this very thin sheet, okay, of paper that just exists there. That's so thin that we can't even touch it because we don't know it's there. It's almost invisible. And yet it inflicts the most heinous pain that can be existent on man, because it separates us from our brotherhood. It separates us from our ability to recognize the oneness. It separates the left and right brain. It separates spirituality and science. I bet you right now that if you go to the pub, if you're living in the UK, for instance, and you go and have a conversation about the nature of what, something to do with God or spirituality, 9 times out of 10, you will have a conflict arise because of a diversity of beliefs stemming from the subtle piece of paper that comes from different patriarchal imprinting that we all carry with us about what is the true nature of God in itself. And we do not see the unity. So we sit conflicting with each other. Oh no, this is what creation is about, and there is no such thing as God, and this is what, and it's like, what is going on here? And we actually spend a great deal of our time in complete and utter waste because of that illusion of separateness that we can't even see beyond. Perpetuated through this Virgo Pisces axis, Saturn, Uranus, the south node of Uranus in Aquarius. Now, coming back to this Garden of Eden story and the relationship between Adam and Eve and the relationship of the masculine and feminine. So we have this process where the feminine energy, we get born into sin, okay? So we all get born into the physical incarnation, and the process is to then, through that birthing process, that we separated from. So that's the pain. It's like we separated from God to experience ourselves in the dense physical plane, and that in itself is a sin. So Jesus saved us from our sins, right? Because we chose to delve in the physical plane of existence. Now let's get something straight here. This is true. However, it is not a heinous crime to actually fulfill your separating desires. It's actually natural because they occurred naturally. The separating desire is there. So here you are on this third dimensional plane, and you're messing around with physical incarnation, and you're not spiritually ascending, i.e. you're not actually transcending the physical by reconnecting with your story of awakening, as Santos Bonacci talks about in his story, and how he perpetuates that expression. The ram of the head, the ram, i.e. Aries, is at the top, and it's the process of the River Jordan. You're going back up to the cerebral. That's what it's about. The story is about the return back to Source, and that the incarnation is here on the physical plane, and then to awaken yourself to your journey, fulfill your separating desires, complete the cycle of ultimate meaning, return back to that. And if you've got separating desires, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come back here again. But you work through those separating desires. You experience them, naturally so. In fact, every single one of you that's sitting here watching this at this point in time will have these separating desires, including myself. In fact, this is a separating desire I'm doing right now. The only thing that you can take back with you is essence, is the source. The physical incarnation dies. So what happens here is that there's this pathology that gets initiated into our collective consciousness, where the fall of man, i.e. man, masculine, is through the feminine archetype. And so you have the female archetype consistently apologizing for her existence because she is the causal factor for man's downfall from the Garden of Eden, i.e. from the eating of the tree of knowledge, right? The forbidden fruit, as it were. So what we have here is this masculine energy angry within itself, not at the feminine, but angry within itself because it was duped. It was lied to, as it were. And that he fell for the sin, the female fruit. And so what happens here is that we have this duality within the masculine, that he is incredibly angry that he is now succumbing to the physical incarnation of the feminine archetype, which is Mother Earth, Gaia, etc. Feminine energy. It's beautiful. Oh my God, I fell into incarnation because it's so beautiful over here. I am horrendous. I am wrong. How could I have done this? And so there's this frustration and anger of unprocessed emotions that all men carry within themselves, of this natural shame. And then in the female archetype, there's this massive guilt for being the causal factor for this process, leading us into the situation where all females need to feel atoned. So they create this natural archetype of masochism. I deserve harm. Now just look at the social imprinting conditioning regarding the nature of abuse. It all exists. Every single one of us at some point in time has felt ashamed because of the way that we've gone out into nature. Now, our natural state is that we don't have clothes on us. Okay? You don't see animals with them. Yet man has clothes within him, on himself. Now, to have clothes on yourself to keep you warm and to naturally protect yourself from the elements themselves is fantastic. And that's okay. To have clothes for pure ego status in that sense is to then be drenched in the process of separation. Now again, consciousness is exploring itself through these things. It needs to naturally go through this process, which means that there will be people that will be stuck in that time frame. There will be people that will be in the cube. Okay? These souls are unawakened in the sense and will naturally go through their own personal awakening story and will come to these conclusions themselves through necessary confrontation and loss. Law of impermanence. Now, what happens here is that there is this inherent guilt that comes through from the sadism archetype, where I now project my unconscious anger and pain onto somebody else, because I myself can't deal with the unprocessed emotions of feeling angry inside of myself. So you have this pathology of sadomasochism, control and dominance. And we have this archetype of feeling ashamed in our societal structure. Oh, you can't do that. You can't wear those type of clothes. You feel like stupid. Or and it's like, if you just listen to this subtle communication within yourself, you can see how much of our social imprinting has been projected on our collective psyche of this feeling of not actually deserving to live. And so what we do is we struggle with these feelings of self-hatred, of unconsciously not loving ourselves, not deserving, which then comes up as this feeling of incredible lack. I don't deserve it. I'm not allowed it. I deserve this pain. Karma is here. Versus breaking that shell and going, okay, hold on. Like, this is a lot of nonsense, and that I deserve the love. I deserve the healing of the heart. And that if I create pain through natural law, which is harming another person in that sense of, I accept that natural guilt that will occur through Capricorn, but not this man-made nonsense that perpetuates itself through Virgo and Capricorn. Now, at this point in time, the Virgo-Pisces axis is going to start coming up for us. We have Pluto in Capricorn, we've got Jupiter in Virgo, along with Mars and Venus, and we have Saturn in Sagittarius. What do you think is going to come up for us during this period of time? What do you think we can use these symbols to heal ourselves with? Now, every single one of us carries this deep guilt within ourselves of feeling ashamed of doing something wrong. And the reason why is because of these past lifetimes of assimilating this religious conditioning regarding that we are imperfect and that we need to then atone for our sins in a way by apologizing. I had one person within the last 2 weeks that came to visit that kept on apologizing for holding space. Like, just being around. I mean, like, oh, sorry, I'm doing this over here. I'm sorry. It's like, why you keep on apologizing? And the reason why is because we're seeking perfection. And that we're doing something wrong. And then on a subconscious level, it's like, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not allowed to live. So many of us at this point in time carry with us the signature that we don't even recognize that most of our psychological attachments towards our lives, the way that they are, is actually perpetuating from this deep-seated feeling of lack. And that I deserve pain, and so therefore I'm going to create this reality and hold on to my belief systems no matter how much they create and inflict pain on me. And then you'll also notice that you actually, as probably an empath and an awakened soul in that sense, will walk around and feel the sensitivity or feel sensitized by circumstances and situations where people are actually projecting this control mechanism and dominance mechanism onto you. Oh, you aren't following the normal rules, and so therefore there's something wrong with you, an inherent judgment. You assimilate it into your consciousness, you recognize there's something wrong with yourself, you don't follow your dream, you feel crushed, sense of lack, I can't do this, and so on and so forth. It just keeps on going along. So for any of you that have got the Virgo Pisces axis in your birth chart, i.e. nodal axis between Virgo Pisces, or if you are the Pluto and Virgo generation, or if you've got the nodes in this 12th house, 6th house, tap deeply into what I'm talking about today. Because many of you would have assimilated lifetimes where you would have been treated like absolute rubbish. You would have experienced lives where you would have followed fanatically belief systems that would have led to massive slaughter of many tribes. I mean, the Crusades, for one, is an example of this. The church, the banking system that exists today, the banking cartel, all of this type of stuff is perpetuated through our unconscious feeling that we do not have empowerment and that we deserve to feel pain and suffering. And so what we do with the Virgo Pisces axis is that the pain is so overwhelming and we can't process it because we haven't had any tools necessary to actually heal ourselves in this process. We just escape through alcohol. We escape through the weekend. And it's beautifully expressed that way. Look at the word, the spell, weekend. Weakened. You're weak when you work during the week, and you're weakened by the weekend. And so what we have here is this consistent cycle of I need to be employed by somebody else to feel the need to be told by another authority existentially what to do. Now, I'm not saying that anybody that's got a job that's working for somebody else naturally has that. That's not what I'm telling you. And that you naturally feel that way. Many people enjoy working for companies that are actually for a good cause. So it's not the truth if you felt that way, or if that's just my own projection. But it's important to recognize that each and every one of us comes into this incarnation with our own authority, i.e. to govern ourselves. And for many, 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 many years, we have this illusion that we need to be governed ourselves by other people. And we need to be judged by existential social conditioning and imprinting that basically assimilates this sense of lack. And so we're overwhelmed by the process. We space out. We never actually do anything about the reality of the situation. And we're in Virgo, just consistently experience crisis, work, disempowerment, spaced out, Pisces. Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening to me babble on about this stuff. I really hope that you felt in some way, shape, or form really connected to what I'm sharing with you today. The next installment in this video series will be the South Node of Uranus, and I'll be showing you the nature of the collective unconscious patterns of separation from nature, and how we get perpetually told that nature is negative for us, and that it reawakens within ourselves lifetimes lived in a matriarchy where, for instance, you've seen your tribe get destroyed and you've lost that sense of connection to nature to the point now where we spend most of our lives indoors, not even seeing the beauty that exists out there. Such. So I hope that you will find that also interesting. A big part of the series that I'm creating for you right now is for us to focus on how we're going to take this story that exists within our subconscious and heal this pathology of sadomasochism and this pathology of man feeling like he cannot access his emotions, and so therefore is suppressing them from lifetime to lifetime, causing deep anger and violence, and the feminine archetype never actually feeling like you can actualize yourself because you have so low self-worth, because you feel that you are guilty for man's downfall, and that's in some way, shape, or form you need to hide in that way. So the balance of the masculine and feminine is coming out. We're going to heal this stuff. It's 2015 and humanity's on the up. And this video, as well as whatever I'm going to be creating for you guys right now, is going to hopefully give us the opportunity to heal this nonsense that exists within us, so that we can actually ascend to the state of beingness that is deserving of our actual organic state, and not this pathology of death and destruction that gets overlaid our psyche and keeps us limited in this particular instance. Right, guys, have a fantastic week. Don't forget to check out the Metamorphosis program that I am starting in November. This is a 3-month online spiritual retreat. I've just hosted one right now. It is incredibly amazing to experience. There's 10 souls that participated, and I was really, really inspired to learn so much from them at this point in time. They've taught me so much about how to do this, and I'm looking forward to season 2, as it were. So if you're interested in knowing more about it, I will put links in the description, and you can contact me, and that will be beginning in November. This is an online spiritual retreat that I'll be hosting, and it's basically spending 12 weeks with me on one-to-one conversations and weekly group meetings as well with the rest of the souls. And you're going to be learning about all the trines, manifestation laws, everything that you feel, everything that's esoteric I'm going to be teaching here, spiritual meaning, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty cool experience. It's me dedicating my entire knowledge base to you in 12 weeks so that you can then walk out of the experience becoming a healer, and basically fulfilling my desire, which is to create an army of people to heal us. All right. Fantastic, guys. Have a wonderful week, like I said, and I will speak to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.